I know.
Quite.
Welcome, Dana Point voters. Thank you for joining us this evening for our general meeting. Our objective tonight is to update you on our advocacy work for Dana Point voters, answer your questions, and let us know how you can assist with our efforts. I'm Ann Eubanks, Dana Point Voters Association President, and will be your host this evening. At the end of the presentation, we will have time to address questions, which you can ask by using the comment feature. We also have some advanced questions we will address. As an FYI, for those of you viewing the broadcast on social media, we won't be able to see your comments or questions. Let's start by defining some of our strategic goals. We are dedicated to consistently reminding Orange County public officials and other stakeholders that Dana Point Marina is a public home port for recreational boating and other maritime recreational activities accessible to the public, which is all Californians, not just those living in Orange County, administered via trust to Orange County by the state of California. Management of the marina needs to be focused on developing and operating the marina as a public facility in accordance with the California Tidelands Trust. Per the public trust, the boaters' revenue generated in the marina needs to be channeled to improve and preserve the marina for public use. In that regard, we are trying to prevent public revenue generation from boat owners via exorbitant slip fee increases, from increasing speculative commercial investments and profits of private equity investors. Ultimately, we are trying to assist the Orange County Board of Supervisors create a transparent oversight framework to assure sound and ethical fiscal and development standards with a project delivered on schedule. The public has a right to transparent financial performance monitoring of the development and operation of the harbor. What have we done so far regarding these goals? First, we support the class action lawsuit to point out that public funds, our slip fees, are being used to fund speculative commercial development and provide increased profit for the partners revitalizing the harbor, rather than revitalizing the marina on schedule and in the best interest of the public. We work to provide the Orange County Board of Supervisors with well-informed marine and boating expertise to assist in the county's oversight of the data. We encourage supervisors, and she did just that. We also are one of the stakeholders asking for an advisory board or committee, and we look forward to the committee starting its collaborative efforts. It is important to define the critical deliverables of the marina revitalization in functional terms. That is, provide a marina that serves the needs of all boaters in a public harbor with direct access to the open ocean. Middle-class public harbors must provide for owners to self-maintain their own vessels when possible. Dock boxes in an ocean harbor are a must. What happens when the revitalization is finished? Will this harbor continue to serve the public? We are a proponent that changes to the public-private partnership agreement need to be made to assure that the agreement produces affordable public access to maritime recreation activities in the Dana Point coastal area. More of the money generated in the harbor needs to be used to reduce the cost of maintenance to the county and not be used to increase exorbitant profits for Dana Point Harbor partners. We understand the developer needs to make a profit on their investment, but what have they invested so far? Most importantly, performance and customer satisfaction metrics need to be put in place to assure that the performance of Dana Point Harbor Partners meets the expectations of the public. Who will hold them accountable without proper metrics? At this time, I would like to introduce the Dana Point Boaters Association Board of Directors and Advisors who are currently working to advance these objectives. Stephen Carpenter, Treasurer. Victoria Winters, Secretary. Alan Johnson, Director.
Hello.
Bob Langham, Director. Hank Davis, Advisor. Dennis Winters, Advisor. And Grant Curtis, Advisor, who isn't online tonight. For those of you who might not know or have forgotten the history of Dana Point Harbor, Alan Johnson is up next to tell that story. Alan, take it away.
Okay. The evolution of Dana Point Harbor, YouTube friends and friends of Dana Point Boaters Association, a short historical perspective. In 1835, Richard Henry Dana, as a sailor aboard the tall ship Pilgrim, loaded a cargo of cowhides and threw them down to the ship at the base of the cliff of San Juan Point. I doubt he had an idea that this area would one day be a small boat harbor providing affordable public access to the Pacific Ocean. In his account of his wild and treacherous life at sea, the book 2 Years Before the Mast, he mused, San Juan Point is the only romantic spot in California. There is a local passion, culture, and mystique this harbor has compared to any other on the West Coast. My personal passion for Dana Point started in the late 1950s, surfing. A century after Richard Henry Dana was here, Congress identified safe harbors needed to be created along the California coast. In 1961, the state of California granted, via Dana Point Tidelands Trust, the area that would eventually become Dana Point Harbor. The purpose of the Tidelands Trust is for the conduct of a harbor. Any retail or commercial activity in the harbor is to be incidental to its primary goal as a harbor. This public marina is to provide a haven for small boats and coastal access for many generations to learn about the ocean, its environment, and many habitats. This public harbor is not a private club or an exclusive space. It is an inclusive and uniquely positioned place for public access. Indeed, the only romantic spot in California. Now, 50 years after the construction of the harbor, there is displacement and destruction of the local boating culture and community. Current policies are in motion that will restrict general public access to the ocean. Dana Point Boaters Association is the champion you want and need for the future of Dana Point Harbor. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Alan. Now let's talk about the real heroes of the past year. Many of you are following the events of the class action lawsuit filed by the three plaintiffs, Nick Papageorges, Donna Groves, and Jim Montrella. I suspect everyone on this live stream tonight is eager for an update. But first, I want to say thank you to the three plaintiffs, Nick, Donna, and Jim, who have the courage to step up to the plate and file this lawsuit. They did it because it was the right thing to do to keep recreational boating accessible and affordable in Dana Point. They did it for justice. But most importantly, they did it for all boaters in Dana Point, many of whom they don't know, so you wouldn't have to do so. This has been an arduous task for each of them, spending hours answering interrogatories, producing items, and being deposed. These things do nothing for one's ego. So if you know them, please make a point to tell them thank you next time you see them. If you don't know them, seek them out. and say thank you. The three of them and the legal team are carrying the burden of this endeavor, and the anchor is a heavy one. A thank you goes a long way. In that light, Dana Point Boaters Association and SOS would like to thank all of you for your monetary support of the legal efforts. And we certainly appreciate your consideration of future donations. 100% of your donations go directly to the attorney's trust account. We are very grateful for every donation, big or small, and they seem to come in exactly when needed. Without further ado, I would like to turn the floor over to Dennis Winters, attorney for the plaintiffs, to give you an update. Dennis?
Thank you, Ann. I'm Dennis Winters. I'm attorney for the plaintiffs in this class action lawsuit, which is pending in Superior Court of Orange County. The class action plaintiffs that Ann just mentioned are representing all slip holders in this case. At some point, we anticipate the court will certify the entire class, and all slip holders will be as part of the plaintiff class unless they decide to opt out of the case. The basis for the lawsuit is that the county signed a lease with the partners back in 2018, and one of the clauses in that lease referred to the slip holders and said that prices should be market rate and should be reasonably determined. It's our contention that the rates that have been charged by the partners are neither market nor were they reasonably determined. As everybody knows, these fees are much closer to the fees of Newport Harbor than similar harbors that are similar to Dana Point's harbor, like Oceanside or Alamitos Bay. It was filed against the Dana Point Harbor Partners and the County of Orange. Eventually, the County of Orange was dismissed because the court found that the courts lacked power to force the county to intervene to enforce its contract. Since that time, we've been conducting discovery. Joe Uberoff and Matt Williams have both been deposed, as well as we've received tens of thousands of pages of documents from the partners. The next thing that's up on this case, the next event is in June, there's going to be a hearing on the partners' motion for summary judgment. The defeat of this motion is a key milestone that we need to meet. It's the most important pre-trial hearing that will be held in this case. 3 attorneys, myself and 2 others, as well as 2 paralegals, spent over 100 hours preparing the opposition, which was filed last week. We think we have a strong case for defeating the motion, and we're waiting with bated breath to hear what the judge's ruling is on this. If it's their motion is not defeated, we would need to appeal, which would be a big delay in this case. The judge has also ordered the turnover a list of slip holders to my office, which we should get within the next couple of months, which will allow us to notify all the boaters of the status of this case and let them know how they can assist in pursuing the case against the partners and getting fair results and rates in this harbor. I also want to thank Nick, Donna, and Jim for stepping forward to represent the boaters. It's a big responsibility, and they have done a wonderful job on it. And I also want to thank all the contributors to this litigation, which is very expensive, and your help is vital. Back to you, Ann.
Thank you, Dennis. All right. So now it's time for our question and answer session. We will answer as many as we can, but in order to ensure accurate answers, we might have to send a list to supervisor to Supervisor Foley to get responses from Dana Point Harbor Partners to any questions that we don't have the answers to. So Victoria is going to be asking the questions. We received some online, and then we'll take ones that are in the chat. Victoria?
Thank you, Ann. And thank you for attending, voters. Thank you for attending this session. The first question is a pre-submitted question, and it's this. Where are the handicap parking spaces for the gates? How does someone in a wheelchair access the gates from the parking lot? Bob, can you answer this question for us? Unmute.
Bob, no audio.
Let's try again here. Sorry about that. I've got two different things. So the handicap parking spaces and ramps should be accessible from the parking lots and should be well marked. We will request that Supervisor Foley send this question on to the harbor partners and ask for a reply from them, and then we will publish that. Victoria?
Thanks, Bob. Here's the next question, pre-submitted. A few of my boating friends and neighbors and I have noticed that the Bellingham barge and crane moved over to the pier by Baby Beach and the Marine Institute. Apparently, they are doing repairs on the pier. Is this a separate county project outside the scope of the dock replacement? Was the project sent out for competitive bidding? What is the cost of this project and who is paying for it? Back to you, Bob.
Yeah. Well, since Baby Beach and the Ocean Institute are not part of the revitalization project, we will need to, again, defer this question to Supervisor Foley to see if she can find out what's going on in this particular situation at Baby Beach and the Marine Institute, and then we'll publish it. Victoria?
Okay, another question, it's pre-submitted. Are the new hideous retrofit booth type dock gates permanent? If permanent, how will proper sidewalk access adjacent to parking lots on the East Basin be provided? And
All right, voters. For those of you who saw the town hall meeting, Joe Uberoth answered this question. I tried to go back and listen to the tape to get the exact answer, but couldn't find it back today. So he said that they are permanent now to meet ADA requirements. Bellingham or Dana Point Harbor Partners are working with whoever the compliance regulator is to prove that that extended area outside the gate is not needed, that they would be ADA compliant without it. And if they can convince that party, then they can remove that panel and the gates will be flush like they are in the old, were in the old marina. So there's still hope there, but those sidewalks are in the new plan are going to be a lot wider. So there will be access to a sidewalk when the revitalization is completed. I did not answer that probably as well as Joe, but I think you get the gist. Thank you. Victoria?
okay, this one might make you laugh, but it's a serious question someone asked. What is the plan for mitigating dog excrements in and around the commercial marina, beach, and park areas? Is there or will there be a dog park in the new revitalization plan? If this is supposed to be an upscale harbor, please explain how excrement fits into the plan. And I can answer this question. This is another question that we will need to send to address to Supervisor Foley for the answer. Our next question is, why is the main channel being narrowed? After years of being told not to tie my dinghy to the back of my boat on the main channel, displacing 3 to 5 boats on the main channel, for one, makes no fiscal sense. I waited 2 decades for a channel slip, spent retirement money on a boat to fit, and now people tell me to move. This particular boater is a bit angry. So, Anne, could you address this question for us, please?
Yes. Again, this was addressed by Mr. Uberoth in the town hall meeting. He did admit that the slips that are the first phase, that it was considered old sea dock in the West Basin, extended out a little farther than what they used to. But he says that the navigation channel will still remain the same. So again, this is a good follow-up question that will get clarified. Hopefully, navigation channel size won't change. Victoria?
Yes, I'm going to take a question from the chat. Now, we still have some more questions on that are pre-submitted, but there's one from Cheryl. Why will it take 2 months to receive the list of boat slips? Of boat slip owners. This seems like a DPA stall tactic. Dennis might be able to answer this question.
I'll try that. The reason is that's what the judge required. He wants first to send out, you'll be getting a notice from a group called CPT Group, which will let you opt out of ever receiving any notices from the plaintiff's counsel or anyone else other than the partners. After that, the judge gave them 30 days to respond to that. Thereafter, there's a period of time in which the names of the persons who have opted out have to be gathered and removed from the list that they're going to be sending to us. And at that point, we'll get the list. So we're talking about maybe 6 weeks, but since the order still hasn't been entered, we're still waiting for the judge to sign the order. It'll be 6 weeks from the judge signing the order. So that's why it might take up to 2 months. But it's just, this is litigation. Litigation moves slowly, and that's one of the things that frustrates people. But we eventually, it's coming through, and it's been so long since we got this thing started, and we still haven't had it, and we should have had it earlier. I'm glad that we're now have a time period in which it's actually going to be provided to us. Victoria?
Thank you, Dennis. Another pre-submitted question. Why were slip fees drastically increased before the construction began? We're funding the construction, putting up with nuisance of construction, and bearing the burden of broken down docks and facilities. Anne, this one's for you.
Thank you, Victoria. All right, this was a question that we consistently ask over the past year. And per former Supervisor Bartlett and also Dana Point Harbor Partners, slip fees were required to be raised in order for the Harbor Partners to secure financing on the project. It's apparent that since financing has not been secured by Dana Point Harbor Partners yet, there's some other issues or red flags in the underwriting process. Obviously, we don't know if there are or aren't, but slip fees were required because they needed it for financing, and to our knowledge, no financing has been obtained. Back to you, Victoria.
Okay. There's another
Yes.
pre-submitted.
And could I add something to that? This is Dennis Winters.
Yes.
If you look back at the documents that they sent to the county, and which were public documents and that anybody could look at, when they originally signed the lease with the county, they were indicating that they wouldn't be raising fees until after the rebuild of the docks. So they changed their mind, even though they aren't admitting it. It looks to us like they changed their mind. That's my take on it. But that's the way I see it. Back to you, Victoria.
Okay, here's another pre-submitted question. For many of us who have maintained our boats for decades, we are looking forward to doing even minor upkeep at some designated maintenance facilities to be built for profit by the partners of shipyard. Quote offered. This person quoted, "Believe me, young friend, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, half so much worth doing as simply messing about in boats." So says Ratty to Mole in Kenneth Graham's classic novel, The Wind in the Willows. Let's see. Hank, will you address this question?
Yes, thanks, Victoria. This is an annoying question for those of us who maintain our boats, but per the slip agreement, it states that vessel repairs, apart from work accomplished wholly below decks, no rebuilding, hull painting, sander use, spray gun use, welding, overhauls, or other vessel maintenance or refurbishment efforts are permitted while in the marina. However, minor maintenance and bright work may be permitted. The types and extent of maintenance which will be permitted are within the sole and absolute discretion of the company, and the vessel owner should contact the maintenance the manager with questions. Any damage caused to the premises by the vessel owner shall be repaired by the company at the expense of the vessel owner. The slip agreement would have to be amended by the county to prevent a lot of light work that's not normally done, and that has not been done to our knowledge. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Hank. Let me take one from the chat. This person says, not sure if there's time for this and don't want to disrupt the flow, but is there any kind of security plan for the launch area trailer parking? Anne?
That's an awesome question. And you know what? This is one that, again, we're going to have to address with Supervisor Foley to get answered. Grant Curtis, who is one of our advisors, has done a lot of work bringing to the attention of Dana Point city officials and California Coastal Commission about the day use boater parking not being cordoned off correctly, now in compliance with the local coastal plan. So that's under enforcement by the California Coastal Commission, but we will address the safety and security question too. And when we get these answers back from Supervisor Foley, and her staff is really good about pushing for answers, then we will get them sent out in a newsletter and posted to our website. Thanks, Victoria. Back to you.
Okay.
Victoria, can I pose it here just for 1 second? Just so you know, I can, I'll put a link up in the next newsletter. There is a camera. It's a Nest camera that broadcasts 24 hours a day. It's on the launch ramp side of Waterman's, and it's on the Dana Point Marina website. It's awful hard to find, but I will put a link that'll take people directly there. And that camera shows a view from being on the south side, looking north side, straight up the length of the launch ramps, looking up towards the gate entrance and part of the parking lot.
Thank you. Here's another pre-submitted question. At a recent town hall hosted by Supervisor Katrina Foley, a question was raised about marina utilities, electricity, and water that are already factored into our monthly slip rental fees. Will there be a reduction in those fees once boaters begin paying for their own utilities? Mr. Uberoff quickly dismissed the idea, saying it would only amount to about $5 per month per slip. In the spirit of full disclosure, I believe boaters have the right to know how much in dollars the marina is paying for electricity and water. I suspect when those amounts are calculated on a per slip basis, the amount is going to be significantly more than Mr. Ruberoff stated. Should this be the case, I believe the county needs to insist on a slip fee reduction once boater slips are metered. Ann, can you take this?
I'd be happy to, Victoria. For those of you that don't know me, I had a 28-foot boat in a slip in Dana Point Marina from 2007 to 2017. And in 2017, I got on the wait list for a larger slip because I bought a bigger boat. So obviously I had to move the boat when I bought it to a different marina. My slip's in San Diego, and the slip I have does include water in the slip price, but the electricity's metered. So I have a sailboat with no heating or AC, and my electric bill runs about 40 to 70 kilowatts per month. And that results in electric bills from about $13 to $20 per month. In my opinion, while a small sailboat or small boat might only incur a $5 a month electric bill, it's hard for me to fathom both water and electricity only totaling $5 a month. On my monthly slip bill, it actually shows the kilowatt reading, so you can monitor it. But the Boaters Association, we agree slip rates should be reduced when utilities are metered, since they're now included in the slip rate prices. This is another item we're going to address with Supervisor Foley because we feel like it's important. We will also ask her exactly how utilities will be calculated because we get that question a lot. I don't know if you all saw the boater fact sheet that was given to Supervisor Foley back toward the end of March, I think it was. We published it in one of our newsletters. And this was the response from Dana Point Harbor Partners to this question on the boater fact sheet. And it read, the billing information is simple. It will show the usage and the cost. When we have surveyed other marinas in Orange County, we have found that the monthly charge for a 27-foot center console tends to be approximately $5 a month. $25 a month for a 40-foot sport fisher, and yard and large yachts vary significantly based on usage. So let's hope that Dana Point Harbor Partners are right and you only get $5 a month utility bills. Back to you, Victoria.
Thank you. We have a few more questions and we're over the hour mark right now. So if you can bear with us half an hour, we'll, half an hour, excuse me. We got plenty of time. Okay, here's the next question. I'll take it from the chat. Rebecca says she's very concerned about the parking on the east side. How are all boaters on the east side, how will they be able to park close to their boats? Ann.
When the parking layouts were reviewed with Dana Point Boaters Association back in, I want to say 2017 or 2018 or whenever it was, the parking for the boaters on the east side, there was like a lot of parking, like 100 spots or something available in the new parking structure. And there were some under the hotel structure. But the ratio of 0.6 parking spots per boater was all included in the plan. And Mr. Uberos' answer to this question at the town hall, he said that the boater parking is as close as it in the new marina will be as close as it is in the old marina, except maybe possibly 15 to 20 feet more walking. Supervisor Foley mentioned she was going to get copies of those plans and publish them on her website. So I would encourage everyone to look at them once they are posted. Thanks, Victoria.
Okay, I'll take another pre-submitted question here. What will be the procedure to right-size boats to a slip? For example, if currently the slip is larger than the boat size, how will that be handled and how is priority allocated? Ann.
All righty. Back to that boater fact sheet that was published by Dana Point Harbor Partners in March. This question was on there, and their response was, based on current information, Dana Point Harbor Partners anticipates accommodating all of our existing tenants that have seaworthy vessels in the applicable size slip. So it sounds like if your boat's in too big of a slip, you'll be downsized. If your boat's too big for your slip, you'll be upsized. But according to what they posted in the boater fact sheet, they're going to accommodate all existing tenants that have seaworthy vessels in the applicable sized slip. Thanks, Victoria. Back to you.
Okay, we'll take one from the chat from Danny. He says, I would think the new docks would have state-of-the-art dock boxes, but apparently they got totally eliminated. What's the chance of having the partners install dock boxes even after they've said no? Anne, can you answer that question?
I will do my best. Again, at the town hall meeting, there was a lot of discussion about this and about how great these new pedestals are for electricity and water monitoring and all that stuff. And it was mentioned that, the utility box wouldn't fit in properly inside a dock box, whatever. But we're not giving up on this. We feel like in other marinas in Southern California, you can have a pedestal. We're fine. I think all boaters are fine with the pedestal. But you can have a dock box too. The marina I'm in, that's the way it is. You have a pedestal, you have a dock box. The electricity is not in the dock box. So we're going to continue pushing that we need dock boxes. We don't know if we'll get very far, but we haven't given up. Victoria?
Thank you. And I'll take another question from the chat. This is Steve. He wants to know, will the launch ramp boat trailer parking be expanded before summer? Anne?
At this juncture, I would probably say no. I will get with Grant and maybe he can address this issue and give everybody an update. But they haven't budged yet. So I'm thinking that they probably won't. Grant, if you have a response and can put it in the chat that maybe you know something we don't, that would be wonderful. If not, that's a question we will add to the list. Victoria?
Okay, let's take another pre-submitted question. East Basin, are we going to have 2 hotels with no boater access parking as we have now? Are there only 3 walkways down to all the slips with only 4 car drops and then park your car somewhere else? How is that going to work? How will fire trucks get to the East Basin with a 4-car drop-off? And please, if you can take this one again.
Yes. So for those of you that don't know, the hotels have not been permitted by California Coastal Commission yet. The city of Dana Point made application to get them permitted, and I know it's gone through several rounds of questions back and forth. I think they're going to try to get approval sometime later this year. So I don't know how people in the community feel about it. If you're for it, then send your support to California Coastal Commission by writing letters or attending the meeting. If you're not for the 2 hotels, send the letters or show up at the meeting and voice your concerns. If the 2 hotels are not approved, then they will have to just refurbish the Marina Inn. And I think they have until 2030 or 2035 to get the hotels done. That information is in the 2nd Amendment to the master lease. And regarding the walkways and the fire truck area, until I think they know exactly what's going to happen with that area, then we won't be able to actually get a final answer to that question. Victoria?
Okay. I have a question here from Jim in the live chat. I believe, Jim, this question has been answered, but I will read it for you. Have they decided how they will right size boats to the slips? And Anne, can you just briefly go back over that again for him?
Certainly. So according to Dana Point Harbor Partners, they anticipate if you have a boat in the harbor now and you own a seaworthy vessel, then you are going to get a slip that fits your boat. That's the way we interpret what they put on the boater fact sheet. Hopefully that's correct. And they also wanted to read a comment from Grant Curtis back on that last question. He says it's still under review by the Coastal Commission on the parking spots, and we're awaiting their ruling to get all parking spots back. So let's hope the Coastal Commission enforcement area gets back with us soon. Victoria?
Okay, thank you, Anne. Here is another pre-submitted, it's a comment and a question. With the dark clouds in the economy and probable recession, the partners' ability to finance the revitalization of the marina is at significant risk. The advantage of public-private partnerships to private investors is that they are sometimes allowed to use public funds to continue the development. In their 2017 proposal, the partners committed that they relieved the need for county to reserve contingency funding because of their access to local private equity investors. This promise appears to be evaporating. This economic reality significantly increases the risk that yet another initiative up to the slip fees or delay revitalization phases to give the partners the ability to remain profitable at our expense, meaning boaters' expense. And will you speak to this? And perhaps maybe Dennis may have a comment as well.
Yeah. Basically, I guess I would have just a short answer. We believe it's a very real possibility brought on by the serious flaws in the lease agreement that was negotiated between Orange County and Dana Point Harbor Partners. We're working on various recommendations to present to Supervisor Foley for her consideration, and maybe it'll make it to the Board of Supervisors to mitigate the risk. We're hoping. It's one of our projects we're working on. And Dennis, do you have anything you want to add?
All I would say is that the lease says what it says, and the county if the county decides they want to change the lease, they still have to get the partners' permission to do so. But on the other hand, it appears that in terms of timeline and in terms of what they promised and what they have actually produced, they're probably would be in default on the lease if that situation comes about. So I think that there's a possibility it's coming down the road that there will have to be amendments to the lease if things go sour as the question anticipates they might.
Okay, we've got another question. Thank you, Dennis, from the live chat. Ken would like to know, how about my live bait receiver in the water in front of my boat? And if you can answer or designate someone to answer this question.
Certainly. Live bait receivers, I don't think are welcome in the marina. I hate to tell the fishermen, the anglers that, but I don't think they're permitted. We might want to reread the slip license agreement and see what it says. Is anybody else on the board familiar with that?
That'd be a question for Grant, probably.
Yeah, we will add that to our list to get answered back to for confirmation.
Yeah, I can. I don't know as I can address it with any authority, but the last conversation I had a few years ago regarding on the docks with the partner's attorney and also one of the partners, is that they do not like live bait receivers, and I never was able to figure out why they didn't like it, but I didn't get a positive response at the time. So we definitely would like to follow up on that.
Okay.
Back to you, Ann.
Thanks, Ellen.
Oh, I have another live question. Someone known as the Ocean Odyssey has asked, will slip rates continue to go up before construction of the harbor is complete? This is a great question. Anne.
Well, I certainly hope not. I don't think anybody in this room wants them to. But it would be a crystal ball reading for me to answer that question. I do know that the harbor partners have had every intention of increasing slip rates once a boat was in its new slip. That was always their plan. But they also had indicated that they weren't going to raise rates until after revitalization. So I'm not sure we can get an answer to that question, but we will try. Victoria?
Thank you. There's another live chat question. I can't really make out the title of the person who's asking the question, but anyway, it is, how many violations have been done regarding the lease? This might be a question for Dennis, if we can answer this question.
Well, I think that's a subject of debate. We believe that simply raising the prices beyond market is a violation. I think there are other violations in terms of timing, but they've been given dispensation by the county for those things. Some of it based on the pandemic, some of it just based on the fact that the partners haven't been able to get the financing that they had promised they had lined up. I think we have that's one of the things we're looking at going through the lease and looking at the things that could be considered violations of the lease, what are certainly violations, what may be violations. And it's a question we are looking at, and it will be something that's going to be brought up as time goes by here. Back to you, Victoria.
Oh, thank you, Dennis. Another question from the chat. George has asked, why are there no channel slips for existing channel tenants? Maybe Anne. I'm not sure who wants to take this question, but we'll start with Anne.
Well, so it's my understanding that slips in the new marina are being assigned based on your priority in the slip size that you're in. So if you're not high enough up on the priority list to get a channel slip, that's, I guess, where things fall. And I can't recall exactly what size of slips are on the channel in the new marina without looking at the marina map. But I would say it's probably because where you fall on the priority list. I don't know if anybody else has anything to chime in on.
And this is Dennis. Since they changed the configuration so that the west side is having the more of the channels than the east side, and the west side is smaller than the east side, I suspect that some of the channel side ties have disappeared in terms of numbers when they do the final calculation, final refiguration of the harbor. So that might have something to do with it too.
Okay, thanks, Dennis.
Okay, we've got another question or comment in the chat. It's from, I guess it's Deuterox. I recall in the prior designs when the county was leading it before it became, let's see, it became into this shopping mall with DPHP's design. One of the main objectives was not to raise the slip fees. Again, this comment speaks to why have the slip fees been raised so exorbitantly prior to the docks being completed as promised previously. Again, Anne, back to you on this question.
Yeah, even in the RFP that Dana Point Harbor Partners submitted, from their financial projections, slip rates were not supposed to increase until after the harbor had been revitalized. So, Orange County oversight is just letting these things go through. I'm not really sure why, but I do agree with you. I don't think there were supposed to be these drastic slip rate increases. So I appreciate your comment. Victoria?
Yes. Cindy in the chat has asked an interesting question. We all know that the harbor gets visited a lot by the sea lions. I mean, they're sea creatures and they go wherever they want. But her question is there any idea what the plan is to deal with the sea lions, both in the short term and the longer term? And
all we keep hearing is Dana Point Harbor Partners is working on a plan. I think one of the reasons why they don't want the bait receivers in the marina is they feel like that's an attraction to the sea lions. I have no idea if it is or isn't. They just say they're working on it, but I have not heard any kind of plan being published. I'm sure Supervisor Foley wants to know the answer to that question as well, because I know she had her office researching solutions to getting rid of sea lions out of the marina. So if we do get an update on this, we will post it. Victoria?
Thank you, Anne. We're getting close to the hour the hour mark, but I do want to encourage everyone listening to please donate to the Dana Point Voters Association for the legal fund, and just for this association in general. We are a nonprofit organization. Nobody's getting paid here, but we are working diligently on your behalf. If you go to the website and read our mission statement, you'll understand that we advocate on your behalf, and we're so happy to answer your questions or get someone to answer them if we don't know the answer. Anne?
Thank you, Victoria. All right. So now we're near the end of our presentation. In closing, we always like to remind you of some boating tips. Tonight, our topic's about safety. At a recent meeting I attended, a Coast Guard officer reminded the crowd that you should consider spending the money to buy a life jacket with a GPS tracking device. Yes, they're very expensive, but your life is precious. So think about it. Secondly, when you go cruising, make sure you file a float plan and send it to a family member or friend. You can find a float plan form on our website at danapointvoters.org. And when filing the float plan, make sure you arrive at your destination by the time noted on your form. If there were delays, notify your family or friend holding your float plan. For those of you receiving a float plan, make sure to monitor it and confirm if your friend has safely arrived at their destination harbor or back at their home port. If they haven't, it's your responsibility to contact the proper authorities. Now, the big question, how can you assist Dana Point Voters Association? We would absolutely love to see the majority of boats in the harbor flying our flag, which says, support local voters' rights. I'm all in. Flying a flag denotes solidarity. You can purchase yours on the DPBA website for a $100 donation. And the link to purchase one is now posted in the comment section. So copy and paste and buy a flag and fly it. It was designed by one of our plaintiffs. I know many of you fear retaliation by the marina management, but remember the courage and sacrifices of the plaintiffs in this case. We need to stand united. Other DPBA gear is available for purchase at our online store. We love seeing our logo on a shirt, hat, or jacket out and about in Dana Point. Secondly, please talk to your boat neighbors and ask them if they have signed up for our newsletter. If not, ask them to do so. The whole boating community needs to stay informed. Keep sending your questions, comments, and concerns to our public officials. We will post their email addresses in upcoming newsletters. Flood their email boxes with your questions and don't stop. Be consistent. As one boater recently suggested, we will post the email addresses of our public officials at the end of each of our newsletters. Lastly, we thank you, and so does SOS, for your donations to the legal fund to date, supporting the class action lawsuit, and ask that before you leave the meeting tonight, copy and paste the link to the legal fund into your browser and make your donation now before our meeting ends. If you can make a recurring monthly donation, please do so. With the litigation ramping up, so are the fees. You heard the hours that our legal team is putting in. For the plaintiffs to succeed in the class action lawsuit, we need a constant source of funds. It is imperative we succeed in this class action lawsuit. We are hearing complaints up and down the coast of marina management companies bumping fees because what is happening in Dana Point. And they aren't offering any better marina or any additional services. Our success ensures recreational boating will remain accessible and affordable for all Californians as the Tidelands Trust dictates. Our failure is the beginning of the end for the average Californian to be able to enjoy boating. We cannot afford to fail. It's not an option. We appreciate your generous donations, so go online and make them now. We plan on having a general meeting quarterly, and we'll continue to do so online if need be. We have tried to use the Sailings and Event Center for a live meeting in the past year, but we're told OC Parks didn't have the staff for events at the Sailing and Event Center. I believe Supervisor Foley has addressed that issue, so maybe our next meeting can be in person. I must add, isn't Supervisor Foley's transparency and availability refreshing? It is us. Until our next meeting, enjoy your boat, enjoy spending time with family and friends out on the water, enjoy all the great outdoor activities our great California weather permits. Most importantly, stay safe, especially during the upcoming holiday weekend. Do something special to honor the courageous men and women who died in service to this great country. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We certainly appreciate it. Good night.